another video on pork rissoles, which I made a few weeks ago. And I was kind of thinking, I was kind of quite happy with them, but then I was having a think about them, and I was kind of thinking, and then I made some pork meatballs, and in the pork meatballs I put in hard Italian cheese. This is just the cheap stuff from the supermarket. It's just hard Italian cheese. Yeah, so it's something that I just use when I'm faffing around with cooking as just a way of keeping costs down. So I put hard Italian cheese into my meatballs, and I was kind of thinking, when I made the rissoles, why didn't I put in some hard Italian cheese as well? Because essentially the rissoles and pork meatballs weren't that dissimilar. You know, they both had egg in, they both had breadcrumbs in, they both had pork in. One was cooked pork, one was raw pork. And then so I was like, well, why don't we try and make it with some, and both had onion in as well, so why don't we try and make it and put some hard Italian cheese in? And I was kind of thinking, oh, that kind of like interesting. So we're going to make the rissoles again. I've still got some pork shoulder that was in the freezer, so I'll say what the recipe is now so I don't have to remember it or write it down. We're going to use about 350 grams worth of cooked pork shoulder. This is fatty, and I'm quite happy to leave that fat in because I think it'll make the rissoles kind of quite nice. Some of the bits are a little bit too fatty, so there's about 300 grams worth of meat there, so I just need to pick through this bit and disregard these excessive amounts of fat. So that's going to be 250 grams worth of meat. I'm going to saute off an onion, and we're going to cook the put the onion in there as well. We're going to use 50 grams worth of sourdough bread, which is my own, so it's particularly nice sourdough bread. Obviously, don't be kind of using like the cheap supermarket sliced white bread. It doesn't kind of work as well. It needs something that's a little bit more robust. And then because we're going to put in 50 grams worth of bread, we're going to put in 50 grams worth of cheese, and we're going to bind it with an egg. I'm going to do them more like dumplings. So for 350 grams worth of meat, I'd normally do like half an egg for that kind of mixture. But because I'm wanting to cook them more like dumplings, I'm going to use a whole egg, so it's a little bit looser. And then, instead of cooking them in tomato sauce, I'm actually going to cook them. I'm going to poach them. My hands are a bit greasy now. I'm going to poach them in some white wine, and then, when they're cooked, I'm going to turn that white wine into the sauce that I'm going to serve with the pork rissoles, and I'm going to serve it on some rice. For a change to the pasta, something a little bit different. So I'm going to make the rice a little bit sticky, and then it'll have this white wine sauce over it. And also in the white wine, I'm going to cook some couple of onions, and then so what will happen is, I forgot it in the cupboard, I think I have. I'm going to be a complete cheat today. So what will happen is we'll poach the pork rissoles stroke dumplings in the white wine. It's just cheap. It's just cheap stuff. You know, the better quality ingredients you use, the better the outcome of the dish that you're going to do. There is no doubt about it. However, we cook within the budget that we've got. My budget's all right actually, and I could afford to use a better wine, but it's all right for cooking. You know. And in the same way that cheese is alright for cooking, it'll give us an okay result. So we're going to poach the rissoles stroke dumplings in the white wine with some onion in there as well. And then we're going to add a little bit, once they are poached, we're going to take the dumplings out of the poaching liquor, and we're going to add some cream, and we're going to puree it up and thicken it up. And we're going to puree it to get the onions nice and smooth, and then we're going to thicken it up with some of this, which is just white sauce mix, which is just granules, and you just pour it into, I think it's just, you can just add this one to water. I don't think you actually have to add milk. It's just boiling water, so it's just boiling water and makes a white sauce, which is not something I normally do, but it's just easy, and because it's going to have cream, and it's going to have wine in it, and it's going to have the flavour from the rissoles, and it's going to have the onion. It's going to make a particularly nice white wine sauce, nice and piquant as well, because it's going to be quite acidic because of the wine. So it's going to work well because pork needs something that's a little bit acidic. So I'll mince, I'll chop, I'll grate, and do all that kind of stuff. And then will be the next stage will be the actual poaching of the rissoles, dumplings, and the cooking of the rice and making the sauce and putting everything back together. But I just want to kind of talk, say what I was doing, the measurements that I'm kind of doing, so then I can just watch the start of the video and type it into the texty comment bit section. But there we go. I think it'll work really well. And then it's also giving me because I'm doing it this way with the pork, it's giving me another idea as well. So there'll be another video on this kind of thing. Right, there we go. Easy peasy. We're ready to cook. I have formed the dumplings into quenelles, which is basically when you get some of the dumpling mixture and you kind of form it with the spoons, kind of like this kind of motion. You kind of do that, and it smooths the edges out, makes them look nice. You could just roll them by hand. I just wanted quenelles. So we've got about 2/3 of a bottle of wine in there. We might need a little bit more. I fried up both of the onions. One onion went into the rissole dumpling mixture. The other 2 onions both got sauteed off. I've saved some of the onions because I'm going to puree those onions into the sauce. I'm going to save those and I'm going to put those back into the sauce once I've made the sauce, so it'll be kind of like an onion sauce. I think that'll be kind of quite nice. The rice is cooking, but it's on the other side of the stove over there because it's boiling a little bit too much on that back one on the back. So we're going to put these in here and we're going to poach them with the lid on. We'll see if we need any more liquid in there. We might do, we might not. We'll see. So how many have I made? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and a small one. So we've made 10 dumplings and dumplings, rissoles and a small one. I think that'll be fine. I don't think we need any more than that. So temperature up a little bit higher, just so it starts to simmer. Lid on and poach away. I'm not going to fry them, I'm going to poach them. I'm sure it will work. Be kind of quite interesting. We'll see how it turns out. I have high hopes. Right. Dumplings are cooked. Slightly falling to bits, but just be a little bit careful with them. And, oh yes, and I've changed the recipe slightly. So I put in, they're very soft. I don't think that's going to be a problem. So I put in, I just want to leave those onions in the pan. So I changed the recipe. It was, I put in 100 grams worth of cheese, and I put in 2 eggs. So, because the mixture felt a little bit, let's have that onion off there, because the mixture felt a little bit too stiff when I made it. So I just changed the recipe slightly. Maybe I should have left it with just the 1 egg, and they want to be just as soft now, but I don't think that's a problem. We're not going for restaurant standards. We are simply trying to make something nice. So, fortunately, I do say so a lot, I noticed. So, some of the dumplings have kind of got into the sauce, which is a little bit of a problem, but it will hopefully puree into the sauce. Right. Quick wash. Heat back up with cooking liquid, and then what we'll do is we'll add, we'll see how much cream we're going to add. Double cream, which is the heavy stuff, so thinner creams will have a habit of splitting, whereas a double cream, I'm sure that's what, when you watch videos from the rest of the world and they talk about heavy cream, I'm sure they're talking about like double cream. So we have single cream, we have whipping cream, we all know what whipping cream is for, and then we have double cream, which is only just the sauces. So the single stuff's for coffee, whipping's for whipping, and the heavy stuff, the double cream is for sauces and things like that. What do I need? Have I got something? Do I need to make a mess? No. Okay. Oh yes, and also I put in a stock cube, a chicken stock cube, into the wine as I was poaching the dumplings as well. And I've made the rice. I'm just going to show you that. I've made it quite sticky because I quite like sticky rice, and I put some butter in there as well, just to make it a little bit nicer. So my recipe is for rice is 1 cup of rice for 2 cups of water and a bit of salt. So into that I put about 25 grams worth of butter. About. Oh yes, can't forget those onions as well. So that should be about right. Right, what we'll do, turn the temperature down, let's up the sauce, and we'll see how it turns out. We might have to add a bit more wine, we might have to add a bit more cream. Quick taste. It's going to fall over if I'm not careful. That's going to be nice, but it needs a bit more cream. Let's just put all that cream in just for the sake of ease. So that was 300 millilitres of double cream. Sort out a bit. And then we need to thicken it up slightly. I suppose you could, depending on how much sauce you've made, if you want to just use a whole bottle of wine, that would be fine. And then a few granules. You need to be careful. These type of things are already seasoned, so you just need to be careful when you're making them that you don't. You're careful with the amount of salt that you put in things. Let's turn the temperature up. Bit more. When you use a blender, we're making sauces like this and granules like that, it has a habit of thinning the sauce down. Same with custard. So if you make your custard a little bit too thick or your sauce a little bit too thick, stick the hand blender in and see if it can just thin it down slightly. Spot on. Smelling really good. So, quick taste. About the right consistency. Ooh, that's good. Onions back in. Don't need to do that. Could have cooked all the onions into the sauce. I just wanted. Throwing the bowl in the wash, and I'm just going to serve the food in that. Just wanted those onions in the sauce because I thought that'd be kind of quite nice. Right, let's get another bowl out and make a mess of that. That was just out of the way for a second. And half that rice. I suppose I could have put some parsley in the sauce, but there's only it's the wrong time of year for a bit more rice. Wrong time of the year for parsley in the garden, so I can't be bothered to buy any. That's that. That's that. Any of these don't want excuse fingers. Ah, they firmed up kind of quite nicely. That's all right. So How many portions? See, 3 is a good portion. I'm going to have 4 though, so what do we make? So I kind of get 3 portions out of this, depending on how much you're going to eat. And then just make sure I get some of those onions and a bit of sauce. It's not going to look pretty. It's a bit beige, isn't it? Let's be honest. There we go, right. So, I'm going to taste these. And then I'll take a picture of that. So how does that work in the sauce? That's really nice. Much nicer than the rissoles my family used to make. So, there we go. That works. It's a bit beige, isn't it? You know what I mean? There's no kind of colour there. Certainly could have done with some parsley on the top of that. But I'm happy with that. That's going to be a nice tea, is that? Just do that. There's a taster. Definitely need some parsley in the sauce, but there we go. Delicious.